Hey, it's TimesGark11 back with more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Blade buffs. This time fixing Twin Rings. Again. So like with Shield Hammers, this was one of the earlier episodes that I did. So I'm going back to the Twin Ring weapon class and giving some updated ideas on how to fix them. Right off the bat, the biggest issue with Twin Rings is the complete lack of blades. There's a lot of clones of the weapon class, but when it comes to actual Twin Rings, you have Dromark and commons. That's it. So the first thing we're going to do to fix the weapon class is Finch and Dahlia should have been Twin Ring blades. Finch already has the design for it. I mean, look at her. She's already a beast blade. Why is she carrying around a hammer when she should be carrying around sharp little rings? And then Dahlia, we all know how Dahlia could have been better with literally any other design imaginable. So by being a Twin Ring, she would have to have a different design to fit better with being a beast. So she could have used either the like Star Fox style character design in her beta designs, or what I would prefer is something like the Togwell from Fire Emblem Awakening, where she would be like a beastly rabbit creature, quadrupeded rabbit creature, so similar to Dromark but as a rabbit. Before we get into the individual blades, first a quick thing on buffing the weapon class as a whole, and that is the crit rate. Twin Rings have a really low crit rate. It's like 9% with Moon Matter, I think. This is 7% with Tachyon, so I think it goes up to 9% with Moon Matter. That could be much better. I would say 18% with Moon Matter should have been the base crit rate for Twin Rings. Still low, but high enough that you can at least work with it in some ways. And also kind of a general weapon class thing, but more on the blade specifically, is that Twin Rings are kind of, I mean, they feel like they should be a fast weapon class. The animations are very fast, so the blades should have low cooldowns. I'm not sure what the cooldown numbers actually mean specifically in terms of time, but I know that 5 is a faster cooldown than lower numbers. So Dromark, Finch, and Dahlia as the Twin Ring blades should have cooldowns of 5. Now on to the blades themselves. Before we go into the specials, I'll start with this skill, because this skill is so useless. So blade combos used by enemies are incredibly rare because they are only used by enemy drivers and only used during certain attacks. So reducing the damage from that on a blade that probably is not going to be targeted by them in the first place because Dromark has low aggro, it's useless. This skill effectively does not exist. So I would replace this with something that has a similar effect in practice, and that would be a flat increase to ether defense. So a lot of enemy blade combos end up being ether based. So a flat increase to ether defense would then reduce damage from them as well, on top of reducing damage from things that actually matter a lot more. So I would make this a flat 10% increase to both ether defense and critical rate. This way he would have slightly better ether defense for the same effect as this, but much more effective. And then a base 28% critical rate that you could then add an aux core on and make it 30 something. So then on to the specials, because that's where the crit rate comes in. So Dromark does not have a niche really. He's the most generic blade possible. He doesn't even have a niche that I can really notice on him. He's just super generic healer. His skills have no synergy with each other. So instead of buffing a niche here, we're just going to kind of be giving him a niche of being the fast crit based Twin Ring. So with that 10% crit rate increase, then he has this, which is really useless because he doesn't have a crit rate currently. So with all of his specials, I wouldn't change the effects, but I would change the critical modifiers on them and give him a 100% critical modifier on all of his specials so that his crit rate is doubled when using a special. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be much more consistent since they would all get like 60% crit rate. If you give him an aux for it or buff his crit rate, then he would have around 60% crit rate when using his specials. mostly useful for this one, but it would also just help out with his damage in general. And I forget which one, but one of these is only a single hit. Maybe two of them are a single hit. There's no reason that any of his specials should be single hit with the animations that they have. Yeah, I think this one is the single hit. So with the animations that they have, he could easily have 5 hits on this, and maybe increase the hits on some of the other ones too. That way you have more chance to crit, more chance to do damage, and in the case of this one, more chance to heal if you increase the hit counts on this. For this one, the skill isn't terrible, but it's just too weak to really be of much effect, so I would increase this to 10% HP restored when using an art. And then this is really, really bad. This is just so useless. So I would replace this entirely with increase auto attack speed by 15 or 20%. This way you charge up your arts faster, which means you can heal more, which means you can also heal yourself more by using arts, which means you can use your specials more frequently, which means you can do more damage and land more crits. So yeah, nothing too special for Dromark. Again, he doesn't have a niche, so there's nothing to actually buff here. We're just kind of having to give him a niche. And that's just, I guess, generally being a better, faster healer than he currently is. Because Dromark is such a disappointment. Really cool blade. Effectively the only twin ring in the game. And he's just so bad. So he has some basic things to buff Dromark. Shouldn't make him amazing, but it should make him much more usable. Next up, Finch. So with Finch being a twin ring, her niche would be the defensive utility twin ring. So this is an okay enough special. I mean, the effect is fine. It's just really, really not useful. So I wouldn't remove the effect, but I would add onto this HP Potion. And this I would replace with Party Heal. This one stays the same because it's already good. Since she is going to be a healer class, she needs a couple stuff for heals. So this would be a useful skill if it wasn't such a low effect. I mean, such a low chance to proc the effect. So I would increase this to at least 30%. Maybe 40%. This has its niche uses, but it's just too low of a chance to be reliable, so I would increase this to 60 or 65% chance. That would go and make her much more useful as a defensive utility if you could just stop the enemy from what they're doing. And then this one, Surprise Attack, is really useless. It's only the first attack of the battle, and only if you attack from behind. So just drop this and replace it with something more unique, and that is reduce enemy attack power by 10% for, let's say, 10 seconds maybe 5 seconds. Say either, I'm not sure if 10 seconds is maybe too long, at least 5 seconds, maybe up to 10 seconds. Decrease enemy attack power by 10% for 10 seconds when a special connects. So this way Finch's niche would be using her specials to debuff the enemy, slow them down, and reduce their attack power. This would be a very unique defensive utility because there's not a lot of debuff blades, or debuffs in general in Xenoblade 2. There's damage over time from blade combos, and there's the seal effects, but other than that, there's not really a lot of debuffs. There's only a few things that any blades do that actually, well, the only ones that actually debuff the enemy are in effect player buffs instead, like Newt's. So this would be an actual debuff effect where it affects the enemy being hit instead of just affecting the party. And next up, Dahlia. So Dahlia, this is really the only thing that's notable about her, is that she's kind of a chain attack buffer for the party. So I wouldn't change anything else except for this. I would replace this with a third chain attack related skill, and that would be increases chain attack damage by, I don't know, 50%, maybe 100%. Or could just have it be applies 100% to the starting damage ratio of a chain attack. That way all of her skills are chain attack based, because that's already her niche, and really she's not terrible, she just could use a bit more to be useful in chain attacks. This is already fine, this is pretty useful. I would just replace this and give her a third chain attack buff, so that she's really built for chain attacks. So that's it for ideas for how to fix the twin ring blades and weapon class as a whole, because it's completely lacking in blades. So I'll do an update on how to buff the bit balls next time. And if anyone has ideas for more updates on other weapon classes besides those, then feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you watch the end, comment Blossom Dance down below. So, see you next time!